I think there's a federal case.
In my
here.
opinion, I'm not a judge.
Might be. I don't know.
I think there's a federal case here. He even brings it up in one of his transcripts or the order that her due process wasn't violated. When everybody says your due process wasn't violated, your due process violated.
Good morning. Welcome back to Talkin' Racine, episode number 215. On deck, Mr. George Myers.
Morning.
In the hold,
Yeah.
Mr. Jim Spadek, chief investigator and producer of the show. I'm Dr. Ken Jorgen, and the guy that says hello. And today we're going to talk about a few things, the first of which is Edwin Santiago. What the heck is going on with Edwin Santiago? Recently elected member of the city council.
District 4.
District 4. He soundly defeated Dennis Monte, which was a surprise to us because we always thought that Dennis Monte was a good candidate.
He was really good.
Yeah,
would have made a great alderman.
I would have liked him to be my alderman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was my District 4. District 4.
Nothing in particular against Edwin Santiago, but geez, I mean, a week ago, Friday.
Saturday.
Friday
Saturday morning.
night, yeah.
Yeah.
He got stopped. He was apparently driving at above the legal limit speed on Douglas Avenue, and the police attempted to stop him, and he took off instead. Got up to about 80 miles an hour, according to the police, and
That's an open stretch there between 3 and 4 Mile Road.
Yeah. Right.
That's
That's what I got.
pretty high speed for that.
Yeah.
We'll run through it. We can explain it, but let's. I'll play a video.
you got a clip there?
Yeah. And then we'll play
let's
that.
watch
And then we'll
that.
come back.
We love these clips.
Racine's District 4 Alderman Edwin Santiago Jr. is pictured on the city's website, but Saturday morning he was photographed in a Racine County jail jumpsuit following his alleged involvement in a police chase. It all started in Caledonia. According to this police report obtained by 12 News, an officer tried to pull a driver over for speeding, but instead, the officer says the man behind the wheel hit the gas at 80 miles an hour and took off down Douglas Avenue into Racine. According to this police report, they say that Santiago finally pulled over here near Douglas and Short, and they had their guns on him. That's when they were able to take him into custody. The report noting the alderman, quote, smelled of intoxicants, had slurred speech and watery eyes. Also noting Santiago's wife, a passenger in the car, was heavily intoxicated. Police booked and released Santiago. The district attorney has not formally charged him. No one answered his door Tuesday. Alderman Santiago, new to the job, just elected last April. Now, the mayor's office tells 12 News they're aware of his arrest, but had no other comment. In Racine, Hillary Mintz, WISN, 12 News.
12 News also reached out to the alderman's attorney, but he has not returned our call.
That was Santiago we're talking about. It wasn't Rich Geppetta, right?
No, that was Santiago this time. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So how come he doesn't have any charges? There haven't been any charges.
There's the question. They've got the police report now. He was speeding, obviously ran from the police. His wife was apparently totally inebriated, and he smelt of alcohol and had signs of drinking. And it's a week now, and there's no charges. I mean, this usually happens.
Is that normal? I mean,
No. Usually the next day they'll bring him in and then give him charges after the police report.
Yeah, you spend the night in jail, and next morning you go to court, and they give you some charges. They ask
tell you what the bail is, and away you go.
Yeah.
And then of course you end up in court. But
now, did he post bond?
Yeah, yeah, he posted bond and he's out. So,
but no charges.
No charges.
Now that does sound unusual to me.
Well, it's not unusual in Racine, George, because now we can go back into a little history here. This is the way Racine operates. I don't know if anybody's new to Racine. You don't. If you're a public official, you get kid gloves. I mean, realistically, that's what happens.
Our audience, that might be incentive for some of them to run.
Yeah, might. Yeah, that might actually someone say, "Hey, I get out of my
really?
Yeah, I get taken care of." Yes, you do.
Maybe.
I want to go. I kind of want to go through this a little bit. We had on the show. I don't remember back when John Dickert, former mayor, got into a altercation in the Piggly Wiggly parking lot on Washington Avenue with a guy named Christian Reynoso.
That's almost a year ago now.
Yeah, pretty close.
Yeah.
Now, in that case, again, it was, it's Dickert was the aggressor. We had him on a show. You go back to that episode, and I'll get the number for you. But this kid should have never been. It would be like if you rob an old lady and she hits the guy with a cane, and they charge the old lady. That's
Clear case of assault.
Yeah, I mean, it's bogus. But yet, again, we're going to come back to how this happens. Of course, we can go back to Gary Becker, who was actually charged, but if he wouldn't have made some mistakes during the court, he wouldn't have been charged. And then, of course, you got the famous Runnin' Rich, who crashes the car, runs home, lies to the police, and then goes to municipal court and gets a drunk driving, and it was all handled within the city. I mean, it was all bogus. The city of Racine has a long history of protecting public officials from criminality.
Wait a minute. What about Keith Fair? He was a public official.
If
they
they
certainly
don't like
didn't
you,
protect him.
If they don't like you, it's
man.
a whole nother game. And you've got Marcus.
Eric
Marcus.
I remember them announcing his charge on election day. Got up in the
Right.
morning, and
Put it
the
in
first,
the paper,
first
right?
people saw in the paper was Eric Marcus has been charged with something.
Oh, he wasn't charged. Officers recommend.
Recommended.
They don't even.
charge, yeah.
There's no charges.
Oh, yeah.
Now
Yeah.
this guy obviously he doesn't get charged either, but they did it for to taint his election process. But
No.
so let's go and let's do a little more digging. The DA, Patricia Hansen is the DA. This is a week now with Santiago, and there's no charges. Now, if you arrest somebody and you don't give them charges, that's called a false arrest. And you have recourse for that. You can't just arrest somebody and not charge them. Oh, we thought you did something wrong, but we made a mistake, sorry. That doesn't go.
Yeah.
Why? Now, actually, Santiago, if he plays long enough, could sue the city for stopping him at 80 miles an hour, drunk.
Yeah.
I mean, you could be saying, my wife was throwing up in the car. I got to get her home. Why you arrest me?
Well, the DA is pretty busy. I mean, she's got that whole Machinery Row case to work on. I'm sure a lot of her time is probably consumed on Machinery
How in the
Row.
heck could they set bail, though, without charging it? I don't get that procedure.
Yeah, that's a good question.
I mean, somebody had to set bail.
Yeah, it was $5,000, yeah.
Yeah, and that's a judge that normally does that, right?
Well, it's a court commissioner.
Court commissioner does
Yeah,
that.
it's a Rod and Bush,
Okay,
I think is their
all
name.
right.
But yeah, they usually set the bail, and then of course they leave. The whole thing's fishy. There's something wrong here, behind the scenes, and I'll tell you what I think it is. I think it's the attorney. You've got the district attorney, Trish Hansen, and the attorneys that seem to pop up over and over again is Pat Cafferty. He comes on the scene, and all of a sudden, my client is going to plead innocent, and we have to wait for the all the evidence to be put in before you cast judgment. Well, how many times has people in Racine been caught drunk driving, speeding, and it's this, you're innocent. Yeah, you're innocent until proven guilty. Not usually in Racine. You're hauled in, you're drunk driving, they book you right away, and you're going back to court.
It goes in the papers.
Yeah.
And everybody knows.
Mug shots are up.
Yeah.
You see all of that. But it depends on who it is. So this Christian who was in the fight with Dickert, he didn't have charges right away. But then Dickert hired Pat Cafferty, and all of a sudden there's charges on
Reynoso.
So
Yeah. Or it's questionable whether he should have been in that one.
Correct.
Why?
But yeah,
it'll
it'll give Dickert's defense something to say. Well, he fought too.
Yeah.
And
both sides are to blame here. Why don't we just toss this? There's no harm, no foul. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but when you get into a Keith Fair, who they want to get rid of, I mean, there's multiple. I mean, arrest them, drag them through the court system, but yet go after the.
Oh, and they threw every charge they could come up with.
Strangulation, suffocation. I mean, you name it.
Didn't they throw kidnapping in there?
Kidnapping, everything. I mean, they had
stuff.
the sky cameras coming around, getting them. I mean, it was so bizarre. It was bizarro, really. But they even took the woman that he apparently had the altercation with. She didn't want to press charges. They chased her down into Illinois, brought her back, arrested her when she got here because she was with somebody that either had drugs or something. So they arrested her. She was in stage 4 cancer, put her in jail, and used her to testify against Keith Fair. I mean, they went to extreme lengths to go after Keith Fair.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think they're going to do that with Santiago?
Oh, undoubtedly. I mean, eminently fair.
Eric Marcus was one. But here's the thing, now it's this insider stuff. So who really is the DA? Is it Attorney Cafferty or is it Patricia Hansen? Because it just seems to me that every time this comes up, you get Cafferty, all of a sudden it gets massaged. And Trish Hansen just, starts sucking her thumb in the corner. Like, well, okay, I don't get it. This is the crap that people in Racine get ticked off about, and this is where your justice system goes astray, and you don't have any faith in the court system. And I'll be honest with you, this is a perfect example of it.
Yeah. I mean, there are plenty of people out there with really minor offenses, maybe get caught with a dusting of marijuana in their car.
Yep.
And they're probably in jail still.
Right. Now, if we go
this is actually endangering people when you're driving 80 miles an hour on Douglas Avenue drunk.
Eluding the police.
That's a public danger.
But where's Caledonia? The other question is, where's Caledonia? Where's the police chief of Caledonia? I mean, okay, you got an officer comes in, he arrests, or he, makes the decision to arrest, and there's no, all of a sudden, this police report takes a couple days to appear, and the news media's got to go chase it down, and now all of a sudden, where's the police chief here? I mean, Caledonia isn't looking real smart either here,
Well, McCafferty is on the Police and Fire Commission.
Was on the fire. He finally, yeah.
But did that encompass Caledonia, or was that just
that was Racine? City of Racine,
Racine.
But he was on that, and if we go back a little bit, that was the questions were, how can you represent policemen and firemen, which he did, and then still be on the Fire and Police Commission? They brought it to the Ethics Board, and the Ethics Board said, "Whoop, wait a sec, no, there's nothing there." Matter of fact, I brought up, and I hate to keep dominating this, but I brought up an article that was actually on the Fire and Police Commission at the time, or at the Ethics Board at the time, and one of the things that was brought up was Sandy Widener brought up the wanted an advisory. How can this possibly be?
Is this a conflict of interest?
Right.
She wanted to know.
Dickard and Corey Mason both. Dickard appointed him, and Corey Mason reappointed him. But it says Finley, who was on the ethics board, said Cafferty, although probably does not have a conflict of interest, one could argue, though, the appearance of a conflict of interest could raise concern. Well, that is a conflict of interest.
Well, that's what it says in the statutes.
Right.
Even the appearance of a conflict of interest is reason to not do something.
Correct.
And then they acknowledge that it's an appearance, but they don't do anything.
Right. And so now you come to the fact that Cafferty's wife has now been appointed judge by Evers to take over Mike Piantek's position.
Yeah.
So is there this little closed circle?
So it sounds like they've become part of the family.
It's all part of the Racine
Neubauer, Mason, Cafferty.
You can't make this stuff up.
Part of the governing class.
It really is. I'm telling you, if you walk through this thing in a Racine in Netflix, and I'll be honest with you, and I'm going to tell everybody, I've been working on this for a few years.
Promo.
Episodes of Racine. It's unbelievable. When you put this all together in the last, say, 20 years of Racine.
It's like a local version of political fiction theater.
It actually looks like, you could have run it. I mean, people would be like, unbelievable. And it's the truth. It's all legitimate news clips. It's legitimate cases. It's stuff like this. It's a conflict of interest, but it appears to be a conflict of interest, but possibly not.
I saw something really interesting today. It's tangentially related, I guess. You know how much the mayor of Raleigh, North Carolina makes on an annual basis? Raleigh, North Carolina, over 400,000 people, $24,000 a year.
Now there you got a guy that wants to be mayor for the reason of being mayor.
24,000
people in there?
Over 400,000.
That's almost the size of Milwaukee.
That's like 5 times what we got here.
Yeah.
What does the mayor get here? George, you know, don't you?
Boy, you 75,000?
75, 80, somewhere there, yeah.
So 3 times as much.
Yeah. Well, yeah. That's
worth every penny of it.
Yeah, that's a silly thing. Almost any other place you go to where you have a mayor and a city administrator, the mayor's job becomes very part-time.
Yeah.
Just maybe establish a little policy, hang around a little bit. But when it comes to running the city, you have nothing to do all day.
Yeah, he's basically just a PR guy.
That's right. That's basically it.
Well, we got a PR guy that works for the mayor specifically.
But now, yeah. So you could just get that puppet we have here of Dickert. Just put him in the mayor's seat.
That's all you need.
And that's all you got. We got it.
And then, of course, we've got the Sandy Widener case. Oh, my God, this just keeps coming back and back and back. It's just, well, they want to kill it, but it's like a zombie, you know? It keeps rearing its ugly head. And it should. The way it's being handled, it should. This is just
That's probably
absolute
when you
mess.
lie about something, it kind of gives it a persistence.
Yeah.
You know, if you tell the truth, it just kind of, that's it.
Right, it's over. Truth is easy.
But you keep throwing
Lies
lies
are
on top of
complicated.
it. Yeah.
It's more complicated for us because these lies keep piling up.
Oh, my God. What is this one now? It's like the judge made a final ruling, like, nothing to see here. It's all over.
Right.
You
Filed
know,
with prejudice. Yep.
Just get out of here.
Yep.
Go away.
So there is an appeal on it now, but that's Judge Kirkman in Kenosha. Widener's attorney has filed an appeal. So, but let's go back and say, how did they
get there?
render this decision?
Yeah. And what was it founded on? I mean, it was founded on, all of these records were sealed. That's the thing, and it's the point of contention now, is Sandy saying it shouldn't be sealed. I want this thing opened up. I want access. Basically, even though this is not a trial, it's like evidence that was going to be used against her, that was leveraged against her. She wants access to it, and they said, no.
Particularly when it's an open records request. That's what the
Yeah.
whole thing is about. It's not even, well, it's kind of a discovery also, but it's basically an open records request that any citizen should be able to make,
Absolutely.
particularly an alderman, and she couldn't get it. And
we're not lawyers.
You know why they hit it. I mean, what
Yeah.
they were closing it on, it had to do with this thing about lawyer privilege.
Right. Well,
Attorney-client privilege.
right.
Attorney-client
So,
privilege.
we could dissect it a little bit, but Kirkman rules on the case. His ruling. Now, we went through this trying to find out exactly what statute, ordinance, what he used to say. You no longer you cannot look at these emails. Other than the fact is that, hey, I want to see what these emails are, and I honestly could not find where he actually used law to justify his decision to seal the case, let alone rule on the case in the city's favor. In the transcript, it says, as I review the PowerPoint presentation, this is Kirkman talking, it reminds me of a law school exam where a law student has the identifying issue, give the rule of law to an analysis and a conclusion. And that's exactly what I've done in this case.
So my question is he like a freshman or a sophomore? And who's grading his opinion?
Well, you got
I think we need to.
Oh, Mike. Well, that's what we're going to do.
Yeah, he does. He said the city attorney identified what the issue was first. They provided the rules, so there's plenty of law provided in this case. It's a PowerPoint presentation. It's funny because he was like following that test and seeing his lawyer did what was in the judge's test. That must be a good argument.
But, we're not lawyers, but we couldn't find anything in the statute that justified that opinion.
No.
I mean, we went
No.
and got the statute and looked it up, and it just...
What he did reference was 905.3. Okay, you can have
.03.
.03. An attorney can have a seal or keep confidential. But the client.
Well, there's specific requirements.
Exactly.
The client has got to be the one that wants it to be kept quiet.
Right.
Wants to.
Well, it says in the last part of that paragraph that the person who was the lawyer at the time of the communication may claim the privilege, but only on behalf of the client. He can't claim it on behalf of himself. I mean, it's the old rule. It's been around forever that the person who's on trial needs to be open to his lawyer. And it's not okay for this person to just give out all this information and then be able to just subpoena the lawyer to get the information.
Right.
Whereas the person has a Fifth Amendment right, a privilege, to not have to testify against himself. But at the same time, he wants to be able to open with his lawyer. So it kind of bypasses the Fifth Amendment if he has to tell his lawyer, and his lawyer hasn't got the privilege. See? So that's kind of the foundation, I believe, and
Right.
why it was set up that way. Because by the Constitution, you're also allowed to have counsel. But if the counsel can't protect the information the same way the client does, then you can't even really have counsel because you can't be open with the counsel.
Right.
So that's the basis of it. But this thing, in this one, the client is Sandy Widener.
Well, the only way it makes
or the city. He's saying it's the city. But if you get into the city, it gets really difficult then because who is the city?
Yeah, who?
The city is Doc and me, not you,
Right.
not you, Jim.
Yeah.
But we're part of the city. I mean, the city is
Which
not
means that you have
City
open
Hall.
access to it.
Yeah, which
Right.
means we have. It's not the city is not the alderman and the city clerk and that type of stuff. The city is the city.
Right.
But the only thing I
People
can
in the
imagine
city.
here is that Letney is claiming that he is both the lawyer and the client. Which
Well, if
gives
he's
him
doing
ultimate-
that far, that gets really, really crazy because he's not the city either. Because that's what the judge ruled, right? It's just that
Yeah.
it was very clearly was legal advice from the city attorney to the city.
Right.
Now that's in the judge's decision. See, it appears to be an attorney's mental thoughts and impressions. I find that it very clearly was legal advice from the city attorney to the city.
Okay.
So the city is the client, but
But the
What-
city,
the
who
ci-
is the city,
Right.
and it can't be Scott Letney. I mean, I know what you're saying. Scott
Yeah.
Letney may believe that. I mean,
well, that's
might
the only
have
thing that I
just
can come
bring
up with
it-
that
yeah,
makes
just
any
say,
kind of sense,
I
and
am
that's
the
pretty
city.
sketchy.
But you know, the fact of the matter is the city is the people, which is you and me. So I didn't ask for any protection, and it says in the law that the lawyer may claim the privilege only on behalf of the client.
Right.
So if I'm the client, I'm not claiming it. Is there anybody out there from Racine? Did you claim it?
Right.
Did
I don't see any.
unprotect
I don't
it?
see any.
Now,
hands
what he's
up.
also saying is, okay, now let's just take that a step further. What's saying is, okay, his work, his mental thoughts and stuff. If everything an attorney does then is attorney-client privilege, then you have a secret organization within the city. If anything he puts on his paperwork, his thoughts or his processes are attorney-client privilege, then there is no open records.
No.
Well, shouldn't all court activities be sealed then under that?
Exactly,
Yeah.
and that's what they're claiming here, which is totally bull.
That just takes it beyond the pale.
Right.
That's right. To say that, well, because he created it, and I was named. By the way, I was named in the suit, and I didn't get very many communications along those lines. But one of them was, and I remember specifically, there was a special election coming up. So Sandy, on behalf, because I had talked to her, she checked with Scott Letney, and he gave all the possible Tuesdays for like a 3-month period where you could hold the election, and then start eliminating the ones that wouldn't work out. All right, and that's the way I picked out, and that was the email I got.
That's
Now
dangerous
that's
stuff.
that's
Now, here
that's
we
so,
go.
that's
Exactly.
his mental his great
What did-
creation that he made.
Well, their argument is that they come in and they say, well, that attorney has that right to do that because there was an executive meeting, so that information was to be sealed up and kept within that boundary of it. But the law also states that for a city or an individual, if there's nothing in there that states there's personal information, an informant, mental health issues, children, none of that was there. None of that was even claimed ever in any of this stuff. Work product, that there was a lawsuit involved. So none of that information should have actually been sealed at any point. And we saw the emails. So we knew what those emails were, and we know none of them were dangerous, gave any kind of information out, all bogus.
And there's reason to believe that the original
well,
packet of emails, etc., has been enhanced in the later stages.
Now,
But because that's all sealed,
right. So that went to Kirkman sealed.
yeah.
And basically, I think, this is the conspiracy part, that, oh, you're a conspiracy theorist. Well, here's what I think happened. They had bull crap in the beginning, and they tried to make it a silk purse at this end to Kirkman. And they changed all this stuff to make it look like it was work product. I think
might
if
have
you
put
dig
some
into
emails in that did qualify
right,
for being
and that went
confidential.
through this whole process, and now all of a sudden, these aren't these. And this is the question. What is this? And Kirkman had the obligation to do that, to open that up, to make a judgment call on it, and he did not. He decided we're going to seal it up, and we're not even going to have a hearing. I'm just going to make the ruling, write up some bogus crap about being in college, and it sure looked like it happened in the same when I was drinking beer at college. We all got drunk, and we made a decision. It's about as equivalent to that.
Another thing is that he made a reference to the fact that there has been 3 years of litigation that have transpired since she has first taken the city to court. 3 years of litigation, and that has changed things, is basically what he said.
Yeah.
That's bullshit. She brought that case forward at a specific moment in time under specific prevailing circumstances. What has transpired since then? I mean, you base things on case law.
Correct.
That case law didn't exist. So
Right.
that's a crazy claim. This whole thing is nuts.
Why is it sealed? Why do you seal
Well,
it?
it's sealed in the first place. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why are you sealing it? You're sealing it because you're covering something up.
Something embarrassing in there.
Yeah. Exactly. I think
At
there's
least embarrassing.
I think you went from the pig's ear to a silk purse for Kirkman, and that's when we said, is he going to take the bait? Not only did he take the bait, they hooked him, dragged him in the boat, and gutted him.
Not only that, but I heard he was at a party last weekend and he had that silk purse on his arm. I don't know.
Well, don't ever get in his court.
Yeah, exactly. We'd be in big trouble, all of us. Oh my God.
So it goes to appeals, and I guess we'll see where it goes from there.
Yeah, it's going up to the appellate court right now, and I think they've already filed an intent, is it,
Yeah,
to
I
file
think intent to
an
appeal.
appeal? So, any idea when that's?
Nah, you know,
Yeah,
I mean, it's never ending.
A year.
Yeah.
It's usually they give like 60, 90, 180 days or something to respond. And then at the last minute, the lawyer says, well, I'm not quite done yet. I need a couple more days.
Okay. Well, one last thing is the brief that the Widener's attorney filed is also sealed. So there's something in that brief that there's something there too. So
Yeah.
it's too smelly. This thing is it's smelly.
Someday, it'll all come out. It might take 50
maybe.
years like the Kennedy assassination.
Yeah.
But eventually it'll come out.
I mean, you know, a presidential assassination. Okay, you could see. Well, maybe there's some things sealed. It shouldn't be. I don't think so. But you could see that. But on a slideshow, you know, at an aldermanic level, some emails that have been passed around and everybody got to see. Everybody, you know, the original executive committee. Everybody got to see them all. All of a sudden, it's all very secret.
Well, my opinion
adding
is,
up,
George, that this was campaigning.
Yeah.
That whole
Yeah,
thing
yeah,
with
that was-
taking
that was what
Sandy to the
initiated it,
ethics
that's right.
board right in the height of a mayoral campaign.
All right.
That was campaigning. And I don't think that it was legal to do that. I think that was a crime right there.
I think there's a federal case.
In my
here.
opinion.
That
I'm not a judge.
might be.
but,
I don't know.
I think there's a federal case here. He even brings it up in one of his transcripts or the order that her due process wasn't violated. When everybody says your due process wasn't violated, your
It
due
was
process
violated.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, man. Well, hopefully we'll have some new news for you next week. Something a little bit fresher.
Yeah.
You know, you're the producer of the show. You
I'm trying. It keeps coming.
There's plenty of stuff.
Keeps sliding downhill to us.
Well, Santiago was new.
Yeah,
That was.
That's a pretty exciting one. You know, we're gonna follow that. So we'll have more for you next week. We hope you enjoyed today. We hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and come back and see us next week. Thank you.